So working in this industry, in any repair industry, you're going to have retarded customers. And we're going to tell you about some of them today. Starting out, there is this gentleman that had bought a Jeep Wrangler off Marketplace. It was like a 2008 Jeep Wrangler. I think it was a JL. I forget what the code is they use for each of these. But this thing was a mall crawler. It had, these ginormous tires on it. And it came in because it was leaking gear oil in the rear axle, rear right, was leaking gear oil. And this gentleman made the very wise decision to buy it off Marketplace and then drive it a few states away from home.
As you're meant to do.
Yeah, with no backup plan as to what if it breaks down or, I don't know. Anyway. So I get it, and those tires were ridiculously heavy. I can't remember exactly how big they were, but I'll put pictures on screen. They were very, very large tires. And also, that's not his vehicle. That's just some random picture I pulled off of Google. So I started taking it apart, and what happened is whatever tweaker had touched this Jeep Wrangler last had taken the parking brake apart. And they left one of the actuators inside. And it fell off behind the brake rotor and rattled around back there until it finally wedged itself behind the bearing and the seal.
Ooh.
So, I was right at the bat. Oh yeah, it had an ABS light on too, because that thing had broke the tone rings and it broke the sensor back there. So right off the bat, I said, this guy needs an axle shaft. Nope, I need to leave today. I need this fixed today. So we're scrambling to get parts. We didn't have anything on hand. We had to get some from the local parts store. To do an axle seal on one of these, you have to break the bearing and get it off and then get the seal off of there. It's the way it's put together. That'll become more relevant later. But as I pull that axle shaft out, I saw that this axle was full of metal. It threw metal inside of the axle going towards the differential. Exactly what you want back there. So then, a service writer that was not that great probably would have avoided this whole situation if he had actually had a spine. He has to go out and talk to him, and then he agrees to have us pull the cover off and get as much of that metal out there as I can. I probably poured 2, 3, maybe 4 full cans of brake clean through this thing, trying to get all the metal out. I get it back together, and I couldn't even lift it. I had to get one of the tire techs. He walked up and said, I'm going to regret this tomorrow. Because I could pick it up, but I couldn't get it, lift it up far enough to get it on the studs. So he picks it up and he gets it on. Well, a couple weeks later, would you be surprised at all to know that this thing leaked again?
Of course it did.
Yeah, so this is the third shop it went to with the same issue. And I'm telling you right now, the other shops probably saw the exact same thing and went, bro, you need an axle. You need this, you need that. And he just went, no, put a seal in it. And
Band-aided.
yeah, so this third shop is trying to blame us. But the thing is, the second shop he went to, you can see the axle was all blued and tinted. And I'm pretty sure axle shafts had to be heat treated. And what they did to get that bearing race off is they heated it with a torch. Now, it can be done right if you know what you're doing, but they didn't. They heated the crap out of those axle shafts. So they're trying to blame us, and we said, no, we never used a torch. 2 other people said, I watched him do it, he never used a torch on that. And this other shop's trying to say, well, it couldn't be us because we have cameras. Ooh, we have cameras in our shop. So, because we had cameras, we didn't do anything wrong. The cameras were actually just security cameras. They were not having their technicians take pictures of every single step they were taking in that repair. I really think they were just bluffing. I don't think this guy even really had the money to sue or anything like that. I don't think anything really came up of it. But if he had listened or just got it right out of there or had it towed out, there would have been such better options if he had listened to what we were telling him. What I think happened is, I think the bearing, the part that was stuck there, I think it actually like carved out a slot where the seal sits, so it wouldn't just continue to leak. And like I said, that's why I said the other shops probably went, "You need a new differential back there," and he went, "No, just fix it. Just fix it." Very intelligent individual. If
Big
you
brained
have a
hours.
service advisor and they treat you well, or they don't seem to mess up a lot, make sure you are very nice to them, because a good service advisor is not easy to come by. Everyone likes to rag on them, but they have the worst job. They have to talk to these people. Drew, you want to tell us about these WRXs that these kids want to put dumb alignment specs on?
Yeah, just a permanent PSA for all owners of vehicles. Please do not look at forums for your alignment specs. They're not your friends. These people are not your friends. This is not going to make your car drive better. Uh, Obviously, the WRX is a kind of zip zoomy car, so these kids will get them. And we had this customer. He was probably 19 or something like that. He had this WRX, and he bought the Ricer package when he bought this car. So he got every aftermarket possible thing put on this car. So the wide stance tires, every single conceivable aftermarket control arm was on it. And he talks to my salesman, and he says he needs alignment. And, it's a newer car, so I think, all right, this is going to be butter. So I get it in the building, I get it up on the alignment rack, and I hook up the targets. And here comes Mr. Customer walking out to my bay. And he hands me, I say, "What's up, man?" And he hands me a piece of paper with alignment specs on it. And he says, I want you to set it to the alignment specs I have here. And I said, "Are you sure, bud? Because these look like race specs. My machine wants me to set it to what the factory wants it set to." "No, I want the race specs." Okay. So I end up setting the alignment in the rear end on this kid's car, and it is super out of whack. It is on both ends. It totals out to almost 2 degrees of toe. But that's what the machine tells me, and that's what the paperwork he gave me. So I said, okay, and I shipped it. Obviously, when I test drove it, it drove like shit. Because if you're going to have that much toe in the rear end of your car, it's going to duck walk. It's not going to dog walk. I know that's an actual automotive term. I have come up with a new term called duck walking, where one side, and it will cause the rear end of the car to shake. And it's when one end is super positive and the other side is super positive, so it kind of scritch forward like a duck walking.
Yeah.
I've seen it several times.
Yeah, so one thing I need people to understand is if you're building something for performance, it is not going to last. It is not made for everyday use. Think of a drag race car. Those engines are built to run for about 10, 12 seconds. Then they lock up. They have to rebuild those engines every race. So if you think of it, it's not over like this, but if you're building for performance, if you're building for abuse, it's not going to last.
Yeah, especially when you, like I said, go on a forum, and these people are not your friends. They put these specs up there, and this is for a race car. This kid was driving this car as his daily driver.
Yeah.
You're going to destroy your vehicle. Warning, you will destroy your vehicle if you do something like this. Do not do that.
You're going to chew through tires really fast, too.
Absolutely. He did come back a week later complaining about, like I said, vibration. And I get him aside and I actually listened to him. And he was doing 90 on the freeway with it. So I can't guarantee past normal highway speeds that your car is going to perform like you want it to. I can definitely not guarantee you that your race specs on your alignment are going to make your car perform the way you want it to at 90 miles an hour.
And
So
I think there's some shops that will just flat out refuse after that point. Like, oh, you're driving
yeah,
it at 120 and the tires vibrate? Well, don't drive it at 120 then, doofus.
yeah, I'm pretty sure we have told customers before that we can only guarantee you up to 70 miles an hour. That's an absolute fact. I know that for sure.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Next story, this customer, I wouldn't say he was stupid. He was in a tough spot. So this is a hybrid Pacifica. I think it was like a 2022 hybrid Pacifica. This was probably 2 years ago, so it was a fairly new Pacifica. This guy gave Amish people rides, and he drove all over the country doing that. Why? I, I still don't see the advantage of having a hybrid for that. Maybe he was afraid of the noise or something. I don't know. Whatever reasons he had. Came in with it needed a battery coolant heater, but also the PIM module and the radiator fan. Because pretty much I think what was happening is the PIM module, which is like this thing's version of PCM, it's a power inverter module. It was not commanding the radiator fan on. Because I was reading through the diagnostic information. They said make sure this works. The radiator fan didn't work, therefore we needed that too. I start pulling these covers off to replace this battery coolant heater, and there's a hole in one of these modules, and the one next to it has a big dent in it. You know, keep in mind, these components have a sticker on them that says scrap if dropped. These are not just regular, low voltage components, they're high voltage components. So I thought that, and I thought, oh, maybe that's why it set the code. Went and talked to parts. Turns out, no. Those were different parts that were broke. He ran over something and didn't think it was relevant to tell us. They wanted me to just go forward with the original repair. I said, absolutely not. You have a hole in a high voltage component. What happens when water gets in there? Nothing good. Nothing good comes of it. He ended up contacting his insurance, and they order those, get those modules approved. But really, any information is relevant. Even if you don't think it's relevant, bring it up anyway. It might be helpful to us. Like, hey, I drove over something at one point. I don't know if people think they can skirt out of paying. This is editing Travis here. That is definitely why. They just... either they weren't aware that they hit something that bad, or they think they can get out of paying for it if they don't tell us. I never told you about this one. Okay.
Oh,
so
boy.
There was a 2005 Jeep Liberty that was a no-crank, no-start, and the security alarm kept going off on it. Because of the thing, like I said before, is dealerships are too expensive, they called a locksmith to come out and program a new key for it.
Oh, boy.
Off the bat, they just assumed it was the bad key. This locksmith charged them $400 to cut and program a new key, which for us would have been maybe $200, or if that, I don't know, because those keys are not very expensive. Charged them that much money, didn't fix it, took their money and run. What the issue ended up being is I think it's called a Sentry Key Immobilizer, or a Scream module. It's this little thing that reads the chip in the key when you start it. It's a security system. Well, with it being a 2005 Liberty, we don't have any new parts for it. But I ran into this situation before where there's a seller on eBay that will refurbish these modules and then resell them just to help keep these vehicles on the road. And we've had to do that multiple times. I know some dealerships hate doing that, but the way I see it, if we don't do it, someone else is going to do it, and they're going to be mad at us for not being able to fix our car. I get that Scream module in there. It started up fine. That's not the interesting part about this story, Drew. The interesting part is the customer.
Oh, boy.
So,
I'm ready.
I don't have to talk to the customer personally. This is all secondhand information from what they told me. This guy had a lot of mental issues, we're pretty sure. It's hard to say what was going on inside of his head. But they said, well, can you describe to us what your car is doing? What's going on? They're trying to get information to help me. And this guy just goes, man, I'm so mad about my car, and I want to shoot my dog because he shoot a hole in the wall, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. The funniest part is, because he said, I want to shoot my dog because he chewed a hole in the wall, There was a sticker on the back of the car that says, I love dogs.
Are you sure this guy wasn't an ATF agent?
May very well have been. Also, side note, there was a cigarette butt just stuck in the side mirror. Why would you put it there? It was there.
Well,
He just left it
well,
there.
you see, Travis, that's your snack. That's you just take that and you just pop it in your mouth real quick. Just go,
I don't think I well enough explained what this guy was saying over the phone. Anytime they tried to call to get any information from him, he'd just start freaking about, man, my wife's such a bitch, she won't let me do this, and all this stuff happened, and never gave us any information about his car. He just treated my poor manager like a therapist. And then my manager was stressing because he would call like every day and cry. Like, when is my car going to be fixed? Like, buddy, we have to get a part off eBay, and shipping is like 4 or 5 days out. Not to mention, I don't know if there's any other issues right now because I can't even get it to start. When I did get this thing to start, there was no power steering. And it's because his rack, well, I don't know if it was his rack, he had a big leak in the power steering system. And because it sat there for so long, it just put a bunch of air in the system. Because after I drove it for a bit, it started to come back. But then he was just crying about, well, I wasn't doing that when I got it off. And you fix it. So my manager just put some fluid in there for him. Because we can't fix it for free. Who does that? This is a business, sir, not a charity. You want to tell us about the lady who asked for the manager?
So this was before I worked for the new place that I work at, the dealer. I worked at an independent shop that is very big in our state. And I was up front for like a quarter of this situation, which is why I'm able to relay this story. So this lady comes in and she has something going on with one of her tires. And the business that I worked for liked to prioritize customers that either had been there before or they knew you were going to spend money. Now, I guess my manager had made the executive decision that with this customer, and we already have this amount of cars that need to get done today, that we're just not going to help this lady out. And she told her, this lady, ma'am, I don't think we're going to be able to fix your car today. And in a very thick Eastern European accent, she went, where is supervisor? I need to speak to supervisor. You are not supervisor because you are woman. You cannot be supervisor. And she kept going, ma'am, I am the supervisor. If you would like, I can show you to another store, which is literally 5 minutes down the road, and we can get them to look at your tire. We cannot do it for you today because the city that this store was in was a very affluent city. So normally we would have customers come in, drop the car off, and leave it there for several hours because they have more than one vehicle. This lady could not comprehend that we had other cars to work on and that she could not get her car done immediately. And she could not believe the other thing, that we had a female supervisor, a store manager that was a woman. She just did not comprehend that there was smoke coming out of her ears, and she just kept screaming, where is supervisor? You are not supervisor. I need supervisor. So we had to basically tell her to leave, and she eventually goes out to her car in the parking lot, and she calls her son over. And her son comes out to look at her car, and he takes out one of those roadside patch deals. Now, the other reason I know for a fact we couldn't fix her tire is because the nail that she had in it was right in the sidewall. So the son attempts to do the roadside rope patch and just absolutely destroys this lady's tire. So just moral of the story, do not unless it's an absolute emergency, do not use those rope patches unless you know what you're doing.
And I don't know if it's actually a law, but we can't patch a hole in the sidewall. There's like only a small patchable area that we can repair. So if you get a nail in the sidewall of your tire, they're not trying
You're
to scam you.
well,
We can't. We can't fix it.
because if we patch that and we attempt to patch that and it holds there and we send you on your way and you're 500 miles down the road and it blows out, that's on us
Yeah.
because we just damaged the structural integrity of that tire by poking a hole through the sidewall.
I think there might actually be laws about it too. I'm not sure, but I could have sworn they said legally you're not even allowed to patch it if it's there.
Yeah.
Very last one is this truck that was a no start, and pretty much the 5.7 Hemis. If you have one and it reaches around 50,000 miles, I can almost guarantee that the starter is going to go out. For whatever reason, at that mileage, I cannot tell you how many Hemis come in as a no start, no crank, no start because the starter went bad and it was ran at 50,000 miles. Can't say why, that's just the way it goes. That's one thing the truck needed, but the truck also needed a battery. Customer comes in, hooting and hollering about, well, my battery can't be bad, it's brand new, I have a brand new battery, it can't be bad. Well, the date code on the battery was February of 2023. Most batteries, I think the ones we sell, have a 2-year warranty on them. It was not brand new, it was 3 years old, like, come on. But, so the funniest part about that story is, he came in, raising hell about his battery. Later on, his wife calls back and says, yeah, I'm sorry he treated you that way. I made him leave the house.
He's sitting there watching his World War II documentaries.
He had to sit there.
His wife sent him out. Be angry. Be a grumposaurus.
I think that guy might have been bipolar. He was like in his 80s, too. He was a very old man, but I was doing this recall on the Pacifica. We have the side airbag recall, which sucks because it pays you 1.6 to do it, but you got to drop out the entire headliner to replace both airbags. I've gotten to a point where I can do it in about 5 hours. I'm working 5 hours to do this recall, and they only pay me 1.6, so never a good day when I have to do one of those. And he walks over and he goes, oh, what are you doing on that car? I said, oh, well, I got to replace both side curtain airbags, so I got to drop the headliner out. Oh, it looks like a lot of work. It's like, yeah, well, it's just what we do, whatever. And he was being, very polite that time. So, I don't know. A lot of people just have issues. And like I said, I'm glad I don't gotta talk to customers because sometimes, they schedule the vehicle out. They know it's broke. They bring it in, and then they want to get mad at you for what you find. Like I had this one kid that had like older Grand Cherokee he bought off Marketplace, like a 2003 Grand Cherokee. Fuel pump went out on it. And I could see that the fuel pump was getting power. And he wanted to get mad at me and start a fight going, no, it's not the fuel pump. It's a security issue with the key. It's not enabling the fuel pump. Oh, but it still cranks the engine. If he had a security issue, it wouldn't be able to crank. Just check that anyway. Okay, fine. Fuel pump was bad. Put a fuel pump in it started. Could have never fucking guessed that was a problem. Like, I thought I gave it starting fluid and it wants to go. Like, doesn't take much more to figure out why it doesn't want to start. I gave it fuel, it wants to go. Put 2 and 2 together.
Some people weren't born with a full deck. I can fully admit that. But, it is what it is. I got into this trade to help people, tell you the truth. It seems like with dealing with customers, they honestly believe that we're out to scam them. They think we're, and I don't know if this is movies or TV or what, but they honestly believe we are out to just take their money because we're greedy and we're evil and all that crap, and it's far from the truth. We don't set the prices for labor or parts or anything. of that sort. It's just that's how the cookie crumbles.
The majority of the time, parts cost so much more than labor. And there's some people, I think it's just ego. There's some people where they just cannot admit that they're wrong. Because I will troubleshoot and find the problem, and they want to argue with the advisor going, no, it's this. This is the problem. Okay, if you want to fight that hard, like, let's say, because I think there was something about, it's a story from another guy that I work with, where it was some of these trucks that had a blower motor and a blower motor control module. And he said, I need a new blower motor. It's not working. Sir, are you sure you don't want us to diagnose this first? Because a lot of these have been going bad, all that. No, put a blower motor in it. It's a blower motor. It's a blower motor. Put a blower motor in it. Puts blower motor in it. Doesn't work. And then he had to pay for diagnostic time and then parts and labor on top of that for that module. So he ended up paying more because he had an attitude and went, I know what the problem is. Like, I have to admit I'm wrong all the time. You can do it too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just people want to argue, so.
And I don't want to say it's all bad. Of course it's not all bad. It's just... I don't know if it's the area we're in. I don't know.
I just, like I said, I think they think we're out to scam them. I think that they think we're evil and we're just out to take their money. We're not there to help. We're just out to take their money.
Yeah. And this is why if you're starting in this industry, even if it's for something unrelated, you mark down you found something else broke. Because I had a guy come in, and it's like sandpaper to my brain, this sentence. Well, I used to be a mechanic. So I did engine work on this guy's truck, and he had a ripped CV boot. The CV axle, the left front CV axle was ripped on it. He comes back going, well, I think you broke it. They're trying to explain to him, well, it was engine work. We never touched the suspension. Well, I think when you put it on the hoist, it like stretched the boot out and broke it. No. So from that point forward, anything I find gets marked down.
Absolutely.
People will just make stuff up because they think you're going to pay for it if they can somehow say you're at fault for it.
Cover your ass.
Yeah.
That is number one.